it's gonna be worse than the predictions, I think.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman. And you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory walks, there is a journey that happens from a person who realizes that they're not fit for employment. They're working for others and they have their own values, their own ways of doing things. And sometimes those ways or those values don't jive with who employs them. So they take the launch out into what we call entrepreneurship. Then they realize that entrepreneurship is hard, it's difficult, it's system driven. It's not just about having a good products or services, it's about having good systems. It's not just about serving a customer, it's about being innovative, and we always have to be on our tippy toes. Today, we're going to have that conversation with our guests. We always sit you at the feet of the masters because we look forward to getting information and intel. I'm using that word. We get intel from our guests that's going to help you become better. I'm going to try to say it. Damien, how are you, sir? I know I messed it up.
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do?
Yeah, I'm a freelance trainer and consultant based of Luxembourg, and I see my personal mission in life and professional life is to help any professional, any adult really navigate the technology landscape and demystify technology. I'm really passionate about technology since a very young age, and I really enjoy sharing what I know about tech, but more importantly, making it actually approachable to anyone. Yeah.
Why do you think, and I'm glad that you started with that lens, what are some of the things that you see where what causes people to be resistant to new technology instead of embracing new technology? We always go in with our eyes wide shut and instead of saying, hey, how can I learn?
Yeah. So first of all, you have to acknowledge, and I acknowledge that resistance to change is normal. It's natural. the there are two types of changes, right? Changes that we have a say on, things that we decide, right? Getting married, having children, moving across the country, right? These are changes that we either alone or with our partner we decide, and these kinds of changes, yeah, they can be bumpy, but there is little resistance. And then there is change that is upon us that we don't have any say, and these are the kinds of changes that, yeah, most people are resistant, including myself, by the way, right? It's for me, it's a natural human tendency to be resistant to external pressures, right, and external
Mm.
changes. The I think there are two things that get combined in the tech world. It's not only change, but it's also the pace of change that
Mm.
is increasing, and that really overwhelms people.
Like right now, we just had an instance, and I want your opinion because I think this is germane to the topic that we starting with, where ChatGPT unfolded 5, and people was like, "Ah, we just learned 4," and they were, even though 5 is faster, 5 is better, 5 is stronger, whatever. They're like, "No, we want 4," like because they took it away from them. Can you explain what happened there in your own imagination?
I think this is more the symptom of the lack of, I would say, software design and software development skills on the OpenAI part rather than the user. Again, I don't think we need to blame the user here, because OpenAI is first an AI research organization. And then they productize their research with their original ChatGPT. It was such a success that they have had a massive user base. But you already, if you've used ChatGPT from the get-go, right, you've seen how clunky the interface was. And the problem is, even though the interface was clunky, still people had preferences. So some people never changed the default model, so they were always on 4.0 when ChatGPT 4 got out, and there was the Omni models, and so for those users, right, they were accustomed to the way the chatbot was responding. And if you've played a little bit with the others, or I've played with O3, O1 Mini, and then there were also in the other models 4.1, and yeah, the way they respond is different. Some use more thinking, some use less thinking, and the big difference between an AI chatbot interface and a traditional software interface is the fact that when you have a normal interface, like with buttons and stuff like that, it's normal that you don't want the buttons to move, right? You don't want suddenly losing buttons. If you have developed workflows and automations, or more habits of, no, I know I need to click in that corner and then in that on that button and this. And if suddenly the software developer changes completely the user interface, you're going to be lost. In a chatbot, it's the model that makes the thing that can stick for someone. And to, first of all, not pre-announce that something would be removed, but again, then imposing a single model afterwards. So for me, it's really, so for instance, I'm a big user of Gemini from Google. I have a Google Workspace account for business. And you see that Google has been offering web services and developing software for a very long time. Yeah.
So you think the rollout was off? Like they should have.
Yes, I think it was a big
communication.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, either it's communication or no. Anyway, it's communication, right? Obviously, they didn't want to pre-announce. They don't like to pre-announce new models. They like because they know that as soon as they say ChatGPT 5 will be announced on that day, I'm for sure Anthropic and Google and Perplexity, they will all jump in to announce something one day before or stuff like that. So
gotcha.
They're kind of stuck in the sense that
it's a competition, right? Let's talk about that, because you're a tech guy and you help people build systems and all that. Is the competition hindering the consumer, or is it helping us?
So I think that short term, it is helping us. Long term, I'm not sure, because on the safety side of things, it is driving them to do things that may not be good for, and I would say, humanity, right, in the very long run. Short term, it's good because they are obliged to listen to feedback and listen to their customer and see how we are using right? How we're using ChatGPT, Gemini, and Claude, and so on, and making sure that they deliver something that we, at the same time that we learn how to use those tools, they learn what we would like to get as improvement for the tools themselves. But the flip side is the race to deliver something that may not be safe in the future. That's the risk. Plus, and that's something I have to admit that I'm really torn on that, and it's the environmental aspect. The fact that these frontier model companies now spring like new nuclear reactors and a bunch of gas turbines to power the data centers. It's like, I think we're already cooked when it comes to climate change and global warming. But climate change, I think we're already cooked as is, and it's gonna be worse than the predictions, I think.
So you've shown our audience your knowledge about technology and your love for technology. Tell them a little bit about what it is that you do. Why do you podcast? Why do you feel that it's important for you to get your message out, and what exactly is the message that you want people to embrace?
Yeah, so for me, it's really about demystifying technology. It is not that complicated. The problem is there are a lot of people who like to use either jargon, or I don't know if you've seen that on your social media feeds, the quote unquote N8 and automation specialists who show videos of things like, even myself, I can't wrap my head around what they're saying and what they're showing. I think they're just, for me, to be honest, they're just showing off, right? They're just showing off. Look at the nice workflow that I've built, super complicated. And we're back to the overwhelm of earlier. For me, most people are overwhelmed as is, and especially solopreneurs. Even though technically at the moment I help all professionals, my goal is really to focus more on the solopreneur side of things. I'm a solopreneur, so I really understand what we deal with as a solopreneur. And also I strongly believe, and that's again a tangential topic on AI and society, I think AI will allow more and more people to go solopreneur, to leave corporate America or leave the corporate environment and do things on their own terms. And I want to be there, and I'm already there for a subset of those because of the Macpreneur podcast. I'm really also passionate about the Apple ecosystem and running a business on a Mac. And so at the moment, I'm really focusing my attention and energy on helping Mac loving solopreneurs be more effective, be more efficient. And it's really about saving time in the end, right? Being able to allocate time to what we want to do most versus what we need to do or must do or stuff like that.
Why Mac? What is your, I don't want to use the word obsession, but what is your love? Why the Mac and that community? Because it's so specific.
Yeah, so just to be clear, I've used Windows PCs for a very long time. I graduated as a physicist engineer. I've always used PCs, or I used PCs for a long time. When I was at university, I built my own PC and stuff like that. So I know quite well the Windows environment, but I was really attracted by, first of all, the design, but not only the look, but the way it was working. And long story short, before I bought my first Mac, I think I spent 2 years reading magazines and listening to podcasts. And I went to a independent Apple store in Luxembourg, because we don't have official Apple stores here. But there was an independent guy selling a reseller. And I would say almost every other week I was in that shopping center, in that shop, playing with the Macs. And so much so that when I actually bought a Mac, my first Mac, I went there and he gave me a discount. and and yeah, no, for me it's the simplicity, not necessarily the simplicity, it's more the for me it feels natural the way the interface works. And also, even though if you look simply at the price tag of a Mac, let's say a laptop, a Mac laptop called MacBooks, right? If you look at the price tag, you'll say, wow, it's so expensive compared to a PC that you could buy Target or wherever, right? But the thing is, the way it has been engineered and the quality control on the components is such that those machines will last much, much longer. So they have a much better durability than Windows PCs. And on top of that, because they are also very good, I think, at the operating system design itself and the development of the operating system, it actually is more robust and more reliable, the operating system, than Windows itself. I remember when I had a Windows machine, every 18 months, maybe 2 years if I was lucky, I had to completely wipe the machine, reinstall everything, and start from scratch because it was unusable. And then 2 years later, something broke or the hardware was not supported anymore, and I was like, yes, so now I need to buy a new machine. And again, long story short, my first Mac is an iMac. It's an all-in-one that I bought in 2007. It still boots up today. Wow. I can turn it on and I can go on the internet. Obviously, it's not supported by Apple anymore, right? It doesn't get any security updates and so on. So from that standpoint, it cannot be really used, but it's still working. And in what was that, 18 years, I only had to replace one thing, and it was the internal DVD drive. That's the only thing I had to replace.
And DVDs, for those of you who are listening who don't know what a DVD is. So, first of all, thank you so much for joining our community and talking to us about systems. I want to end our conversation on systems, because you explained the PC and the Mac, right? And what you were saying, underlining, is that the Mac has better systems, and with better systems bring a better flow, right? Why is systems so important in anything that we do, whether we're building a business as a solopreneur? How do you implement systems into your everyday life?
Yeah, for me, system thinking is I think it's partly because I have an engineering background, so I had to systematically think about things. So that's. But I've always been, even when I was before that, I've always been a kind of a continuous improver, and I've always looked for optimizing things and making things better and never repeating the same mistake again, and so on and so on. And the thing is, if you want to produce an output with the same level of quality, you need a process. You need to document the way you do something, right? Because if it's only in your head and you're not really sure exactly, you know that maybe I open that up and maybe I do this and maybe I do that, then the and if you and there are two things, right? There are processes that are heavily relying on computer usage, but then you have also as a solopreneur, as a service provider, you have customer facing processes, right? And so what happens when if a lead contacts you as the service provider, if for one person you respond in a certain way and another one you respond in another way and you don't follow up the same way, and once you have provided the service you don't do the same thing again, you can't reproduce, right? You could have great success, and you could, I got a referral from my client. Yeah, you got a referral because that day and that time you asked for a referral, but it was never documented and you forget about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't systematic, right? It wasn't systematic that when you have finished a service, a job for a client, that you ask gently for a referral, right? And so, yeah, for me, the step number one is really documenting your processes. Maybe I still have it, or maybe I recycled, but when I started EasyTech in 2013, I had a very large, A0 pieces of paper. So I don't know how many meters by meters. It's maybe. So what's the US sizes? You have letter, and then you have bigger than letter. What's the bigger sizes than letter? Like 2-letter formats side by side.
I don't know.
So I think it's the equivalent of six letter sizes pieces of paper together, right? Very big piece of paper.
Yeah, we have what we call the poster board, like for the posters.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have had that on that wall for years, and I had post-it notes about all the steps of my process, from the first touch point with a prospect to the last touch point after delivering the service. And those post-its, they were moving and they were like, maybe I should change that. And I had, at one point, I think after a few years, I kind of gelled my process and I still had the before and after. And to make sure that you, if you want a repeatable output or a repeatable outcome, you need to have a documented process. And I think that's what's lacking. And also, that very important, we talked about AI earlier. For me, it's really a prerequisite for starting to implement AI into any automation, because for me, automation starts with documented processes, and you have dumb automation, and then you have AI powered automations. And very few, or I would say most of the solopreneurs that I deal with, they don't even have the capabilities to implement what I call dumb automation.
Well, there you have it, everybody. We sit you at the feet of the brightest and the most brilliant people around the world, and you've heard how and why systems are important, and a great Mac story too. Listen, we don't ask you for cash apps and Venmos or any of those things, but we do ask that you support our guest. All of his information is in the description, and that we also ask that you hit like and subscribe and share with other people that need to hear these conversations. Enjoy the rest of your day. Peace. I have to run to the bathroom.